Hi folks, this is activity CZ85 and the objective is to parameterize the model that you see there. So we're going to introduce several length parameters, R1, L, R2, B, and A. So that's 5 length parameters and 1 angle parameter. Okay. I don't need to see this anymore, so let me go there, start with the part file. I'm going to call it CZ85. All right. And now we're going to save it. File, save management, save as. I have a folder here. Um, there we are. Okay, so let's make it. On that vertical plane, I will sketch, considering symmetry very carefully later on, something that looks like this. Okay, notice that it says the center of this arc here is on the axis of symmetry. Okay, so let's do the following. For example, I'm going to draw a circle, an arc actually, like so. Okay, and then we can, for example, draw a line from here to here, and that's going to be a construction line. I'll do only half of this stuff. Okay, so that being the case, let me first make this thing a construction element. Oops. Okay, there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this thing uh, maybe, yeah, just do half of that. All right, so then we need a line that goes from here to there, but that is not a construction line. So let me turn that thing into a regular line. And these two have to be lined up. So this control that, we make them coincident. So they well, coincidence, that's fine, no problem. But then I have to make this coincident with that, which is fine. Okay, good. And then we have a circle that goes from here, maybe half a circle, something like that, like so, an arc. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line from there to there. Notice that what I'm trying to do for you is getting this piece worked out. Okay, and then close this the way I want it. So for example, from here to there, I'll use a shift here. Okay. So what I have at this point is kind of half of this, but there are some constraints that I have to put in there, and I haven't made it. So this is vertical, that's good. That's horizontal, very good. These are aligned, very good. Now let's check something out. Notice that this is pretty much what I want. It's just a matter of dimensioning it the way I need to. For example, I can make a dimension, let's see now. When you look at these dimension parameters, there's R1, there's L, so let's do those. This one later on is going to be L. Obviously, this circle is going to be R1 later on. Fine. This angle, the angle from here to there is going to be beta. Now, that being the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a construction line from this point to that point and turn this thing into construction, okay? And then make this angle beta. So angle between this and that, that's going to be beta later on. Here is my A, and then The other one is going to be B or B over 2 actually. So let me do the following. Let me make this thing A. Let me dimension this thing, make this thing A later on. And now B is going to be double of that. Okay, so that being the case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror all of these with respect to that vertical axis. So let's select these 1, control 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and mirror it. Mirror is right here. See, now this one is mirror. Yeah, we can mirror it. There we are. Let's check something. By the way, this dimension from there to there is B. That being the case, why don't I dimension from this point to this point? So we have all the dimensions that we want. Now let's check things, make sure that they work the way we want them. For example, I can grab this bottom and drag it down. You see this? Or I can make this circle. All right. Very good. So we have actually created the nominal part. Oh, this radius, I need a radius here right now. See that? This is supposed to be some value, which I forgot to do. So let's take this thing to be the radius. Actually, let me do the following. Let me just make this radius. How about that? That's better. Okay, so we're going to save everything. Exit. You can pad it or you can leave things the way they are. We can do the padding later on. All right. So I'm going to go to f of x. This knowledge toolbar, extremely important. Notice that this is how we define parameter. Define a parameter right here. New parameters of type. Let's do all of first the length parameters. Okay, let's pretend that these are in what are my units? My units are inches, I believe. No, my units are, I'm pretty sure it's millimeter. That's okay. Okay, so new parameter of type length. Let me call this thing R1. And what I'm going to do is, cancel that for a second. My suggestion is, when you click on f of x, also click on the part so that at least you have a rough idea what these lengths are. For example, this is going to be roughly your R1. Okay, so now I'm going to say length, new parameter is going to be R1, and the value that I use, the value that I use, the value that I assign is going to be roughly 52 millimeter. Okay, another one, new parameter. This one is going to be your L. Yeah. So new parameter, I'll call this thing L. And roughly that value is 61. 61. Another one. There is this one is R2. So we call it new parameter R2. And roughly that value is 68. Another one. I believe this is A, your A. I'm going to call it little a and call it given value roughly 36. And last one is B. This is B with a value of about 124. Now the only thing that's left is that angle. So let's change this thing to angle, new parameter of type angle, and I'm going to call this thing, we called it beta in the drawing, beta. And that angle beta is roughly 50 degrees, 49 degrees. 49 degrees. Okay. At this point, I have some parameters, but they have nothing to do with this model. All I did was set those values approximately to the values that we see in the drawing. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. First of all, I want to be able to display the parameter in my tree. So we go Tools. Well, before I do that, let me save everything. Tools, Options, under Infrastructure, Part Infrastructure, display right here, constraints, parameters, any equations, etc. These first two are not critical. I mean, they're not important in the present problem, but parameters and relations are going to be important. We say, okay. So notice that these parameters that we define, they are all here, but we have no idea there's certain values. So what we want to do is we want to set, for example, the dimensions there equal to R1, the dimension equal to L, the angle equal to beta. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on f of x one more time. Okay. We click on the tree so that we have all of these things. So this one, we want it to be equal to R1. See that? This radius, we want it to be equal to R1. So you select that, you say add a formula equal to, we can select the R1 from the tree, or we can say rename parameter, we can select it from here. Either way. So I'm going to select it from here. You say okay. That guy, add a formula equal to L. That fellow, add a formula equal to R2. This guy, add a formula equal to B. And finally, for length at least, this guy, add a formula equal to A. And select the angle, add a formula equal to beta. Good. And we say okay. All right. Now, we define parameters and we define equations. If you had made a mistake in any one of them, you double click on it and you go and fix it, which of course I don't have to here. I'm pretty sure these are okay. Now, if you can pad it, if you want, you can pad it. I'm going to leave it the way it is right now, or I can pad it and then change these values. Okay. Now notice that, by the way, it doesn't say what these values are, right? But I can make it show me. So if you want these values, the current values of these parameters to be displayed, so you go to Tools, Options, under the parameters and measures, under the knowledge, this first tab, it says with values, with formulas. Okay. So I'm going to say with values, and then we say okay. Notice that the values are shown here. Now let's start changing. For example, remember this radius was R1. So I'm going to change R1 to, I'm going to change that thing to maybe 40. And then say okay. Notice it did change. This angle was beta. So let me change that beta from 49 to 30 degrees. Okay. This radius, so this length was B. So I'm going to change that thing to 200. Now remember, if you put some unreasonable numbers, of course, things will fall apart. So you may have had the impression that this is horizontal. That doesn't have to be. You can see that for certain value of parameters that may be horizontal, but in general it's not. So let me go ahead and actually pad this thing. First of all, it looks like it's working fine. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to pad it. That's fine. And now we can start changing our parameters. For example, let me make this value of beta. Let me make that value of R2 bigger. Actually, let's start with this. R1 is over there. So let's change that thing to 60. Okay. This value L, I'm going to change that thing to 90. Oops. 90, 90. 90. Okay. What else do we have here? The angle beta, that angle beta, let's go make it let me make A, let me make B different. So B, for example, I'm gonna make that thing from 30. Let's see how it looks like. Sorry, 30. That's what I meant. 30. Okay, so notice that for certain values, things may go crazy. Actually, you can see what's going on here. If you go to the sketch here, you see what happens. You see? You got to be careful. No, you cannot just randomly put any numbers that you want. So let me undo this. Okay, there we are. And what else do we have? Let's try the length L. Length L was this. Let's try A. Value of A. What do we have here? A is 36. I'm going to change that. Instead of 200, I'm going to make it 100. Okay, good. And the value of A, we change it to maybe right now it's 36. I'll make it 50. There we go. So this is what I mean by parameterizing. First you draw a nominal sketch, define your parameters, create your equations, assuming that you didn't make any mistakes, and then you can go to the tree, and by changing these numbers, your whole part resizes. That's what I mean by parameterizing solid a part. We will talk about parameterizing assemblies later on. We haven't even covered assemblies yet. That takes care of this activity.